UNICEF says reliable data on violence against children in Nigeria is scarce. The agency says this is because such violence is often not reported and is regarded as normal because it happens within the family circle.
When I was young, the abuse impacted me in the ways that I was not able to sleep at night. I had nightmares, flashbacks. I was unable to look at anyone in the eye. I was unable to trust anyone. I acted out lies.
It is that up to 60% of Nigerian children before the age of 18 have been violated, whether sexually, physically, or emotionally. That's high enough to call attention of everybody to read that this is not allowable and we must do something about it.
It is time for children of victims to declare their freedom from child sexual abuse.
I don't talk about anything sex. My dad is not someone you can be comfortable with.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to the Gold Advocacy Foundation talk show. I'm Adiola Afolabi, and with me here is
Daniel Jimo.
You look really good, by the way.
And you look gorgeous.
Talking about the topic, parent-child communication. What is parent-child communication? It is the verbal and non-verbal interaction between a parent and their child within a family system. It takes place within all the child's ages and developmental stages. What just basically trying to say here is, when we say verbal, we all know what verbal is.
Definitely.
Talking through your speech.
Definitely.
And then non-verbal, we recall when we were younger, growing up, and then we go to our friends our friend's house, and then they offer you food, and then your mom's already looking at you like,
Eat it.
exactly.
Yeah,
that is
true.
definitely non-verbal because she did not have to say anything, but with that look alone,
Yeah,
you were
that's
able
true.
to communicate.
That's
She was
true.
able to communicate with you.
That's true.
It could also be through written forms.
Definitely.
And then when we say it continues within all the child's ages and developmental stages, we mean it is a continual process. It doesn't start and end at one point in the child's life. From when
Yeah.
a child is born to when they become toddlers, to children,
That's
to
true.
teenagers,
That's
to
true.
young adults, and even when they have their own family themselves,
true.
something that they should pass down to
To
their
their own
kids.
kids.
Yes. Why is this topic so important? Why are we laying so much emphasis on parent-child communication?
Parent-child communication is a very important subject that should be discussed in the society. And you know, we have a lot of cases of child sexual abuse on a high rate. Then we have issues of child violence committed against children on a very high rate. Even cases of child trafficking. All these are a resultant effect of the fact that there's a lack of communication in the home. Now, one of the importance of this particular topic is the fact that it helps us to eliminate cases of abuse at a very high level. How do I mean by this? There was this particular story
Okay.
of a boy that stuck an object into his junior brother's anus, a boy of 12 years old. And
Wow.
his brother was around 8 years old. So he stuck an object into his brother's anus, and then he was detained in the police station and then charged with a case of assault, sexual assault. Then eventually was taken to a rehab. You know, he's not yet 18 years old. Taken to a rehab home, but there was this particular rehab officer who understands how victims, how they behave. Then she
Yeah,
also
the
understood
signs.
the science, and then she also understood how a child communicates. In fact, let me say she understood the act of communication.
Yes.
So all efforts to make this particular child talk while on detainment was so abortive. But this rehab officer was able to make this child talk. And to our greatest surprise, the first two sentences this boy is going to voice out was this: I was trying to stop him from putting it in my junior brother's body. He repeated the statement again, and then they had to dig further. They eventually found out that the father of this particular boy has been abusing this child sexually. And then he, as a child, with the love of his brother at heart, was trying to prevent the same from occurring to
His brother.
And he's been punished for an offense he was trying to prevent, but he was preventing that in the wrong way. But the painful aspect is this: the mother was available, but there was a problem with communication.
True.
If there has been a kind of good communication between the mother and the child, it's either they have been able to prevent this from happening, or they are able to detect
escalating
earlier. So it won't even have to get to the point at which he has to stalk an object into his brother's anus. That is why communication is so important between the parent and the child.
True. I think communication also builds friendship between parents and their words.
Yes.
If you come back from as parents, when you come back from work every day and you take out time to engage in little conversations with your children, asking them how school was, trying to tell them what even happened at your own place of work, making sure that their words are being heard. Not taking away gadgets. You see some parents talking and then using their phones, and obviously the children know when you're listening to them attentively and when you're not.
Funny enough, they know when you are available and when you are mentally available and you are physically available.
True.
No, a person could actually be physically available and not mentally with you.
Very true.
So children are so sensitive to that. They know when you are available.
Yes. So when you take out little time from your day to engage with your children on a daily basis, you do that consistently, definitely they're going to be your friend. They'll find it very easy to come talk to you about anything. It'll be very for them to come and tell you, oh, mommy, this happened to me in school today.
That's true.
So through that way, you're already encouraging parent-child communication. You're already building that trust.
They'll find
and that
it
intimacy.
so easy to come and tell you about things that are very should have been very secretive, things that they are going through in school. That's true.
Very true. And then I think parents should stop this blame game or being judgmental when their children come to tell them little things of, mommy, I lost my pen in school today, and then you're already shouting or insulting your child like, that's why I don't give you more than 2. That's why they would definitely not want to come and tell you sensitive things happening to them if you're already judging them with little cases like that.
And this particular point you made is so common with African parents.
Very common.
And that's why we have the high cases of sexual abuse among children, because we cannot deal with the little things. We cannot come to an understanding on little things. Then how will children trust us enough to come to an understanding on big things that matters to them, especially something that matters to their body? So children will not even find it convenient enough. At least we've heard issues of children who got to the stage of menstruation. They don't even know what to do. They don't get to talk to their parents about it because they felt like, will mommy and daddy understand?
Yes, and there's this story I heard of this young lady that was having a menstrual pain. I think shortly after she started menstruating, she was going through pains, excruciating pains, and she didn't know what to tell her mom or how to tell her mom. So she was telling this uncle that this is what I'm going through. I think he saw her sober crying and then asked her what she was going through, and then she told him. And then he was telling her that when she has sex, it would remove the pain away.
My God. And
definitely she believed him because she was not taught from home. She could not even go back to meet her mom to ask her if what the man had said was true. She just believed him.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
And then she went further and had sex, and that was obviously very wrong. If she had that communication with her parents, her mom, they would have been able to tell her that no, this is very wrong.
That's true. She would have been enlightened.
Misled outside.
That's true.
So and we cannot lay too much emphasis on
I feel like that is terrible. That's so terrible. It shouldn't be our girls or our boys that go through things like this. I think parents should actually do better on parent-child communication.
I think so too. And then which leads us out to the age. What age do you think parents should start teaching their kids about things like this? Do you think there's a particular age that they get to that you start to talk to them about parent-child communication?
Definitely, the issue of parent-child communication should start from when their children is being given birth to. There's no particular age to parent-child communication. It start from when a child is being given birth to. Children have stages whereby they communicate to parents, from calling mommy, daddy. So a mother should understand when a child is mature enough to communicate a particular part of either sex education or a subject to the child.
Understand how mature they are.
Definitely.
The recent study showed that when a child is 2 years old, they're becoming more open to their environment. They're learning new words. They are getting more familiar with people.
Familiar with people.
So when they get to that kind of age, you can start making them know their body parts, the parts that are private to them, and the parts that. So whenever they are being molested outside, they would know that this is what's happening to them, and then they will come back to tell you. Children who do not know basic things like that are the ones that are very ignorant and do not know that they're already being molested outside, because they do not know that they are not supposed to be touched in some particular areas of their body.
That's true. And they wouldn't even know when they are actually being abused.
Yes.
You know, there are cases whereby mature adults are being spanked on the ass by men. And some of these girls or guys, they don't even feel anything strong. That's because they've not been shown the importance of that particular part of their body. So they feel like it is for everybody's touch.
Yeah.
So you understand that idea. So, and that is very common in Africa, majorly Nigeria, because this is where we are. So we know much more about it. But that would want me to talk about this particular sub-point. Why do African parents actually avoid the sex education talk with children?
I think it all boils down to how they were brought up themselves.
Wow.
In an African home, you at least see where the parents sit their own kids down to talk to them about things like this. They always find this topic very, I don't know, shameful. I don't know why it's like that. In fact, there are some homes where you can't mention private parts and they're already shouting at you. Or
you dare not. In my home.
And they don't even like to use the real words. They start using things like, don't allow people to see your thing. Don't allow.
Your thing.
Why?
Like in the Western part, they say your toto.
Can you imagine? So I don't know why they find this very shameful, but though I blame it on how they were also brought up by their own parents.
That's true. But I feel like there are also many other reasons that are involved. Like you said, the shameful aspect. They feel like it's not moral enough to call all those parts what they truly are. Like a boy knowing that his own private part is called the penis, and the female knowing that what they are carrying on their body is vagina. And they feel like it's not a word that should come out of the mouth. They feel since it is a private part of the body, then it should be private to the mouth, which is not supposed to be so. But majorly, parents actually feel that these particular topics are not meant to be discussed with children, because in some cases they themselves are not actually educated enough.
Very true.
To talk about it. And then, you know, illiteracy has a lot of things to do with parent-child communication. What you don't know,
you can't tell others.
Yes, and you cannot talk about it except you want to talk out of the scope. You understand?
You know, funny, there's this story of this girl that climbed a tree. Her mom was always warning her that stop climbing trees. I don't want men to see your pants. Stop climbing trees. And then there was a day she took off her pants and then climbed the tree. Then when her mom saw her, she said, "What did I tell you?" She's like, "Mommy, I took my pants off." It was just because her mom did not want to tell her the main reason why she did not, which is very wrong.
Definitely. So if she had done told her the needful, and she had done it very well.
This is exactly why I don't want you to climb the tree.
Definitely.
She won't have been misled.
Then to the extent of pulling up. So that's true. And
I think parental communication also helps you to notice signs of when your child is already being assaulted.
Wow.
Why we're even talking about this and trying to enlighten society is because we do not want the actual act to happen before you start looking for cures or want to prevent it in the first place. So when they're already able to notice signs, like their behavioral signs, emotional signs, the physical signs, it would help them to act before the main thing happens. We have behavioral signs like you notice that a child is very hyper or active usually, and then he or she is now beginning to spend more alone time to themselves.
Definitely, it's a behavioral sign. And then if parents have actually built close relationship, they will have been able to understand those signs. Like you said, children who actually probably they eat very well, and then probably as a result of maybe an abuse or a kind of challenge they are going through, then they stop eating. It should be a sign. It's a behavioral.
It's psychological. Yeah, this thing affects these children psychologically. So it tends to be to affect how they act.
They act.
Day-to-day acts.
Definitely.
Some children will eat a lot, will start reducing the way they eat, or some would even eat more to try to cope with whatever they are going through. So if you notice that something is wrong or something is not right with the way my child is acting, you should be able to act on that before it gets out of hand.
Definitely.
Even a child who is very good academically, is always topping the class or at least coming amongst top 3, is now carrying the class or becoming very bad.
That means the child is psychologically affected.
Yes.
Wow, that is true. That is true.
Children who are very confident and brave are becoming very timid or shy. Usually, it's a pointer that something's already happening to my child, and you should get ahead of that before.
That's true. And I also know it's not limited to the behavioral and psychological science. You know, we said it will also help us detect early signs of children that are being abused, or probably children that are about to be abused, and that was why we talked about the behavioral and the psychological science. But what about the preventive aspect? It helps us prevent these cases of abuse from happening. For instance, a child that has actually been very optimistic with life, or so open to people, or very jovial with strangers or a particular person in the family, and then you suddenly notice that kind of child no longer wants to associate with people or no longer wants to associate with that member of the family, it should be a kind of signal, because there have been cases in which some of these kids have been abused by someone very close to them, either by neighbor, family member.
In fact, most child perpetrators are people that are close
family. By, yeah, that's
could
true.
Be the people working in their house, their neighbors, relatives. That's
true. So if a child begins to show that kind of sign, you can talk to them, and then you might find out that they are about to be abused. Because when children begin to do things like that, show those kind of signs, it's showing that there's a signal, there's a red flag. So if there has been a good communication, you might be able to prevent the abuse from happening. So I also want us to look into the case of understanding how a child communicates, because it is so paramount to parent-child communication.
True. There are children who are very vocal normally. You don't even have to ask them things. They're already coming to tell you what is happening to them. Or there are some that are very quiet.
Yes.
And shy. But I don't know how parents, if your child is really very quiet, I don't know how you'll be able to look and understand that my child is being assaulted already or molested.
You know, so that I feel like there cannot be a single signal to understanding if a child is about to be molested or is already going through sexual abuse. Now, there will be very other signs that these children they are going to show. For instance, a child that is actually very silent and then is either going through an abuse.
Yes.
The child might eventually stop eating very well. The fact that a child is silent does not mean they will not eat well. For instance, while I was growing up, I'm this silent person. I'm not so vocal then like now.
Yeah.
I love keeping to my space. And, you know, it doesn't mean I'm not going to eat well.
Yes.
It doesn't mean I'm not going to bed well. But I love my space being clean.
Yeah.
And then I have times that I come out in the day. Then if a child who is like me becomes a victim of an abuse, they can stop eating. They will begin to show other signs that can show a kind of yellow card or red flag to parents that something is wrong with this child. They can be more moody. You get?
Yes.
Then they might even stop coming outside to people at the time they do come out. So there are many ways you can notice.
There are also signs of children resuming bad habits they had grown out of, like thumb sucking or bedwetting. And you see your 8-year-old child that definitely grown out of that kind of thing a long time ago, now doing that. It should be an indicator that something is happening there. So even if that child is really quiet, as you said, of children that are very quiet,
definitely.
You see that your child is resuming old behavior that is not normal.
Like bedwetting. For instance, if a child of 15 years old is bedwetting, there should be a message to the parent that something is actually very, very wrong.
And some child find it very painful to use the toilet or urinate because they are already even being molested.
That's true.
So it becomes very painful. I don't know. When you notice things like that, you should try to look at what's happening and
Definitely.
take ahead of hand.
Then I will also want us to look at what is the best possible way to communicating with children. You know, we all have how we understand words and how we understand communication.
Yes.
What is the best possible way to communicate with children? There are some parents that they believe in nagging at children. What do you think about that?
I think it goes back to what we said earlier about being judgmental and
Okay.
stopping the blame game.
Okay.
Your child is telling you things, you should not start looking for how to blame them for whatever happens or nagging or shouting at them. You should just take it slowly with them. Make them feel like what they are saying is important and valued and heard.
That's
and
true.
listen to them attentively, taking away gadgets, TVs, phones,
That's true.
so that you would really know what they're trying to say.
That's true. And then let me just add to that, because if we are to get a good result from parent-child communication, the parents should actually try as much as possible to understand how best their children communicate.
So that they'll be able to take charge before the main menace happens.
Yes, and we've already expatiated on this during the talk. I will also want to add to it again that parents should be so conscious of their children. There have been so many cases in which we've recorded recently that most children, before they are actually abused, they show signs. So they would have even talked to somebody about it, but they might not actually be so open.
Yes.
So probably some of these kids, when they try to voice out, the response they get from those people,
it's not encouraging at all.
So it is of utmost importance that we understand the positive ways of communicating with those children. Nagging should not be involved. Being judgmental should not be involved. Then taking enough time to listen and be available is one of those things that should be done while trying to communicate.
There's this say that charity begins at home. Is how you handle things at home that your child, that's the way they will display outside, or that's what they will display outside. So when you're able to tackle these things within the family system, it won't aggravate outside and become a terrible
Wow.
situation.
I really wish we could do more of this talk.
Sure, it
and
was
then
nice having this talk with you, Mr. Daniel.
Definitely. And then I hope we'll have another section that we lay more emphasis on topics like this. And they are very little things, but they are very important. You know, the resultant effect of lack of parent-child communication and child abuse, it will keep increasing if there are no parents to put their children through.
Yeah.
And lest I forget, I would also want us to lay emphasis on parents avoiding that blame game. You know, the issue of why did you wear this?
True. Where were you outside at night? Where were you at this particular place? And trying to blame the people it actually happened to, instead of looking at the perpetrator and how to handle the situation is very bad.
Definitely. So nothing justifies an abuse. An abuse is what it is. It is an abuse.
Yes.
Nothing justifies it.
Yeah.
So I think we have come to the end of this talk show.
Yeah.
This talk show is facilitated by Good Advocacy Foundation, and we hope to see you on our next talk show section.
Okay, yeah. So I remember the thing is, my dad is someone who wouldn't sit down, and he's not someone you can be comfortable with, basically, but being outside, you know how it is. Your friends, whether good or bad, these are things that they talk about all the time. I'm lost. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. No pressure. And another thing is, as we grow normal, we experience, we meet with girls, and these are things that we have to learn about. If you don't know, you'll be looked at as the odd one. Sometimes people even take pride in being sexually informed. Some people take pride in it. I take pride in it. So basically, that's it for me.
No. But I think yes. When I finished my secondary school, there's this time they caught me with condoms in my backpack, and my mom is like, I was expecting them to even maybe say, what are you doing with this? And she's like, no, that thank God I have the sense to even be using condom. I was like, seriously, but they didn't talk to me about anything about something like that. Even if we are watching some movies we are not supposed to watch, is how they used to react. My dad is not the type of person that will bother about anything. We don't even used to have conversation. If sometimes months we don't even used to talk. But my mom, I think my mom is still the person that can still talk to you about it, but we never talked about it. Maybe because I'm a guy, but my sisters, I know she used to talk to my sister about things like that.
So it was more of a gender thing?
Yes.
And outside,
Yes. Like we used to talk about it, me and my friends, and sometimes mostly inside movies. Or your friend, they will teach you one or two things, they will tell you, you'll be like, sometimes even if you are talking, you don't know what they are talking about. You just try to feel among, then later you go and do your research. What are these guys talking about? That's how it was.
In my house, basically, we can't talk about anything sex. Yes, so I've never talked to my parents, and they've never even called me to talk about anything like sex before, because to them I don't know anything like woman, and that's how it is. I don't know anything like woman normally. Yes, so so anything women I don't know. So we don't talk about sex.
So where do you learn about it? Like, how do
Ilorin, that's where I learned about sex. These bad peers, they were the ones that made me know about sex. And